Good afternoon, distinguished guests and business partners. I'm Angel Yang from the Kohler company. I'm really excited to see all of you here virtually, and thank you for joining us at the launch event and the press conference for the Kohler Bold Design Award 2021 Asia Pacific region. Kohler was founded in 1873, and we have strong stood as the global leader in the kitchen and bath industry, with a heritage of 148 years on the leading edge of design and technology. The Kohler's brand reputation is filled with compelling accomplishment and bold innovations. And we always stay true to our mission of contributing to a high level of gracious living for everyone who is touched by our products and services. Kohler Bold Design Award, KBDA, is a design competition for hospitality, residential, and commercial property professionals in Asia. We have organized the competition with the purpose of showcase the best talent in design and innovation, and to provide a platform for the outstanding architects and the designers to share their outstanding works and projects. KBDA was started 5 years ago with a great success in Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Over the years, this award competition has attracted 550 entries and 15 of the most renowned judges from all around the world. The Kohler Bold Design Awards has become one of the most important design awards in the region. This year, we decided to elevate this award to the Asia regional level for the very first time, so it now includes 7 countries. We are honored to have a panel of 7 esteemed and reputable judges from around the world, and 10 media partners and associations collaborate with us. Today's launch event is really exciting, and we are so happy to have Andre Fu, Chris Godfrey, and Brian Lam joining us together with Susie for a panel discussion to share amazing insights about the design trends. I would also like to introduce Adam Kwak, General Manager, Indonesia.
Hi.
Liu Liang,
Hello.
General Manager, South and Northeast Asia region, joining us live today as well. And next, I will have Gisini, Marketing Director of the Asia Pacific region, to introduce KBDA. Thanks for staying with us for the rest of the exciting event. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, I'm Gisini. I'm pleased to be here to introduce you in detail what about Kohler Bold Design Award. As Angel mentioned earlier, this is the first time ever that we cover 7 countries in Asia Pacific. We have over 6 renowned international architect, designer, and hotel operator to form the jury panel. And this year is very special. We have 2 new awards, which is our innovation and commercials. So together we have total 17 awards. Kohler stands for bold. Bold is our DNA. So we're looking to have the submission of project that is bold, and definitely all these projects shall be located in Asia Pacific and to be completed between the 1st of January 2019 to 31st of August this year. Definitely, the winner is going to get very high media exposure locally and regionally. And definitely, we will publish all the booklet of the winners from all the 17 awards. And we will organize the regional exhibition at our Kohler Experience Center in Bangkok, Taipei, and Singapore. Let me bring you on the key milestone of the Kohler Bold Design Award. Today is a first submissions, and the submissions gonna close on December 15th. On January 15th next year, we're gonna announce the nominee. And in February 2022, we are looking forward to welcome all of you again to celebrate together at the award ceremony. We cannot have this successful event without the support and cooperate from our media partner and associate. So we have the regional media partner, Designology. We have the local partner Aldeco from Vietnam, SIDS from Singapore, and we have 5 associates from Taiwan, CSID, TAID, TID, KAID, TAIDD, and we have the partner from Indonesia, HDII, and from Philippines, UAP. Last but not least, and the most important one, we are looking forward from your submissions, so please enroll at kbda-ap.com. Before I leave today, I want to share with you the award in details. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for this press conference. I'm Susie Annetta, Editor-in-Chief of Design Anthology magazine, and it's our great pleasure to be partnering with Kohler once again this year on the Kohler Bold Design Awards. As Angel mentioned, previous years of the awards have focused on one country solely. The exciting thing about this year's awards is that it's now open to the Asia Pacific region, and I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking and saying that we're excited to see, again, a very high calibre of entries from around the region. This year, again, we're also excited and thrilled to be collaborating with very high quality and calibre of judges for our jury. And we have a couple of those judges joining us today. So I would first like to introduce Andre Fu from Andre Fu Studio, who's joining us from Hong Kong. We also have Chris Godfrey from HBA Residential, who's calling in from Singapore, and Brian Lum from the Hyatt Group, who is also joining us from Hong Kong. Hi, Brian, Chris, and Andre. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Hi, Susie.
Hello, Susie.
Hi, Susie. Pleasure.
It's great to have you here. Thank you so much. So we're going to have a bit of a Q&A, and this is open to anyone who may be joining us this afternoon. I have access to questions, but I might start off first with a couple that I'm curious to ask each of you. And that is firstly about what it is that you're looking for with the submissions that you'll be judging this year. So are there any special elements, do you think, that might determine a winning entry? Perhaps Andre, if I can shoot to you first, what do you think it is that you're looking for from the entries this year? Okay, sorry. We have 3 of our judges with us here this afternoon, but there are also a couple of judges that sadly can't be with us here today. So please let me introduce them first. My apologies. First of all is Tina Norden from Conran and Partners in the UK. And we also have Steve Leung from Steve Leung Design in Hong Kong. as well as Alexandra Champalamode and Ed Bakos from Champalamode Design in the US. So Steve and Alexandra have messages for us. I might let them share those messages with us now.
My name is Alexandra Champalimau. I'm the founder and president of Champalimau Design. We are based in New York City and have been established for more than 45 years. Our work is prolific and touches many facets of design all over the world. I have followed the growth and successes of Kohler over many years. Its style, high-quality product, and impeccable ethics have allowed Kohler to become a revered brand throughout the world, and in particular, the Asia-Pacific region. Champalimau specifies Kohler products with great confidence in many of our projects around the world, and I am honored to be selected as a judge for the Kohler Bold Design Awards. At Champalimau, we are fortunate to be involved in the large and growing number of projects in Asia Pacific, a region we find to be particularly rich in innovation, with an appreciation for function, desire of beautiful design, and more than anything else, demanding great quality. This year, I encourage those designers with both passion, innovation, to step forward with your ideas of market needs in this very high-level, niche Asia-Pacific market. To those of you who have entered this year's competition, I say the very best of luck to you and keep designing spectacular products. The world needs us and the world needs you. Thank you.
Hello, this is Steve Leung from Hong Kong, founder of Steve Leung Design Group. This is my first time to join Kohler Bold Design Awards. I feel very excited to look at the inspiring works from the Asia-Pacific region together with a great lineup of jurors. The strong impact of the global pandemic provided the incredible opportunity to redefine our role as designers and the mission of design. Today, the interior discipline is fully embracing responsible and eco-friendly living principles. Biophilic design, sustainability, and well-being became crucial in the design process. Smart technologies are also widely used, shaping more personalized and functional environments. Last but not least, space flexibility is setting a new trend in the industry. With more people working from home, post-COVID-19 houses will rely on multifunctional design that blurs boundaries between traditional homes and conventional workplaces. I cannot wait to see and be inspired by the innovative works that will reshape the built environment and our traditional way of living. Best of luck to all Kohler Bold Design Award participants. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you so much, Steve and Alexandra, for those lovely messages. And again, Andre, Chris and Brian, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It seems that we have a number of questions coming in through from media around the region, so I'm going to go straight to those questions. We have one from the Philippines Business World. The question is, in the context of the pandemic, what design trends in Asia are emerging? And Andre, because I went to you first last time, perhaps I'm going to do that again. So Andre, if you wouldn't mind responding to that question first, that would be great.
Well, I guess it's how to balance the idea of social distancing with, whilst trying to maintain the energy and the emotions of a space, especially in the context of hospitality, when it's all about creating an emotional experience for customers. I think keeping that balance in our work is something that's crucial. And it's not just relying on dividers and things to just kind of break a space out. Yeah.
Thanks, Andre. Chris, would you like to add some thoughts to that, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. I think we're seeing, obviously, with people spending more and more time at home, that home is becoming more and more important, not just as a multifunctional space, but what home represents to people within that space. And I think home has always, for me, been obviously about security and about well-being generally. It's your domain, and I think that's becoming increasingly more important in many different ways. And well-being, as we know, peaceability, tranquility. You know, this although we're spending a lot of time in the home, what we look for is maybe slightly different, because it's become our omnipresent world as well. So I think we're certainly seeing within our projects, as Stephen said, how to create flexibility, how to have different spaces that can respond in different ways at different times and for different people, different territories. And certainly at the high end of the residential sector where we typically work, how very specific aspects of well-being are coming into the residents as well. So I think ultimately the times we're living in now, it's very changeable. There's a lack of fixity, and I think we're seeing that in the evolution of some of our projects and briefs as well.
Interesting. And Brian, would you like to add to that from your perspective, from the world of hospitality?
Yes, Susie, I think what the pandemic has sort of taught us that sort of mono-use spaces are no longer sort of usable in terms of that we need that flexibility and adaptability in hospitality spaces. I mean, it's been completely devastating for the hospitality industry, but I think in terms of spaces that do more, we've looked at so many prototypes and different things that we've done, and to sort of Chris's point, where we've sort of seen that blurring of the lines between sort of work and personal space, even from a guest perspective, in terms of your guest room becoming your workspace, your dining space, even your gym in a certain respect. I think building in that certain flexibility into the hotel has become very important, apart from obviously the safety and hygiene aspects that we've looked at. They're sort of top of mind right now, but I think really looking forward in terms of space utilization moving forward, and how that's going to change given the impact of the pandemic.
So some big changes by the sounds of it. We have a question from Vietnam, and I would like to put this to each of the judges actually. And that is, which of the categories of the awards are you most looking forward to judging submissions from, given that we've got quite a wide array this year? Perhaps, Brian, I might look to you to respond first this time, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine, Susie. I don't think it's any specific categories. I think they're all exciting in their own right. And I think given they're the Bold Design Awards, I think there are quite high expectations from me as a judge anyway on the Design Awards in terms of the entrance, and very excited to see all the entries in the different categories. And given that it's Asia Pacific wide, I think you're going to see a lot of diversity in there. So very excited about it.
And Chris, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think Brian's just done it for me, really, but it's that, isn't it? This year is APAC, and I think with that comes incredible diversity, geographical, contextual, cultural, and that was interesting for me. And then add that matrix of different categories. I think it makes it a really interesting year. So yeah, wouldn't want to pinpoint or prescribe, but very interested to see the breadth.
And Andre, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, for me, it's possibly anything that's related to the home, because a lot of the times I usually judge for competitions that's more related to hospitality and maybe not so much on residentials. So anything that's related to the home I might find some inspirations from that.
Interesting. We have another question from Vietnam, and actually I might direct this to Angel because you haven't had an opportunity to answer a question yet. And the question is, how do you see this award contributing to the development and promotion of the region's design industry?
Yeah, so definitely I echo all the judges what they say, all the expertise, in Asia Pacific region, definitely is a very diversified region. So it's a perfect we can, link our design technology with the culture elements. So I think, this is what Kohler wanted to do and elevate this bold design award to an Asia level and to link the culture elements with the design and the technologies. So that will be a great, I'm very much looking forward.
I actually have one more question for you. And given that the awards are called the Bold Design Awards, the question is in regards to how do you define being bold in terms of design and architecture? Maybe from Kohler's perspective, could you tell us a bit about that?
It's a great question. So I think all the judges probably expert to define what is bold. But I can share with you for Kohler, bold is our DNA. If I use one word to describe, use my personal language, probably it's a charm. It's passionate and a charm. So over to all the experience and the judges.
Yes, we're very much looking forward to seeing that. We have another question from Indonesia, and actually someone's asking to clarify the eligibility rules, actually. So perhaps, Angel, this might be for you as well. The projects need to be completed by August 2021. That's one of the eligibility requirements or criteria. Perhaps if we could clarify that, I wonder if that means that the projects need to be finished and photographed. Do you have any further information that you could perhaps supply us with, Angel?
Yeah, definitely we would like to define the period of project completion. So August the 31st, this year is the completion day, of the project. So if there is any further questions, definitely would like to connect it and to explain.
Thank you. And I'm sure there'll be further information that we'll be able to provide if anyone does have any further specific questions in relation to the criteria. Sorry, there's a lot of questions here coming through. Okay, so this is a good one. Actually, perhaps I might also give this to you, Angel, and then perhaps give the judges an opportunity to answer in their own way. What should the participants be looking forward to the most? And what value can they get out of the event this year? Perhaps, Angel, if you wanted to start with that question.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the purpose of Kohler organized this KBDA is really to, recognize the best of the best in the industry and recognize the best talent. And most importantly, actually, we established this platform to share the best, iconic projects with each other. So it's an experience sharing as well. So we will have a lot of activities, during this period of the time to facilitate this, sharing. So we will have a lot of social media, on the, the line exposures. And also, as what all of you know, we have a Kohler Experience Center in Singapore, in Thailand, and in Taiwan. We will showcase all those iconic projects in our Experience Center as well. So there are many ways we would like to bring you up to the regional level. And of course, all our judges, there is definitely, a very great eyes to look at all the, a project around Asia to select the best, so it's more about the platform sharing.
It's a wonderful opportunity. I have another question for each of the judges if we have time, and it's, I guess, if you could perhaps tell us a little bit about how you feel about being part of this year's awards, and also, I guess, from each of your unique perspectives, how you feel that it also continues to contribute to the development and promotion of the region's design industry. So maybe Chris, I might pass to you first this time.
Yeah, thanks. And I think it somewhat relates to the last question as well for me. And at a time where everyone's focusing on what's immediately around them, dealing with the day and dealing with the navigating through the now, I think these kind of events become more important than ever, where we can share, as Angel said, and we can be less introspective and actually, look at what's happening around us and what other people are doing. look for inspiration. And I think that's the point of interest for me. And I was very happy to join this year, particularly with that in mind. You know, what can I get out of this? What can I contribute to it? But what will I see also and learn from? And I think that's, if everyone approaches it in a similar way, then it's good discourse.
Yeah, thank you. That's great, Chris. And Andre, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think on a personal level, I think this year I sit on quite a number of competitions, and what is important is a lot of the projects I might not be able to experience firsthand, and it's purely based on images. It's important to see how the projects are being represented, whether there's a way to give a more kind of spatial understanding to the way it's being presented. I think that side of representation is something that is very interesting, especially this year. I think previous years, I probably would have visited probably at least 60 to 70% of the hospitality projects by the time the submissions come through. But this year, definitely not, unless they're in Hong Kong. So yes, the way they're represented could be something interesting to look at. Thanks, Andre. And Brian, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, it's always an honour, Susie, to join these judging panels, and it's interesting because when you send me the invite, you always sort of wonder who the other judges are, and then when the names finally come up and you know all of them, or you've worked with them, or still currently working with them, it's nice to see. And I think it's that nice camaraderie that we have within the architecture and design industry that keeps us all going in terms of acknowledging each other's great work and the great work of all the entrants as well. So it's always great to sort of participate in these types and get inspired, like Chris says, in terms of new innovations, finding new talent out there. And I think it's really that great platform to showcase that, and just like being given the opportunity to be part of that.
Yeah, thank you for those thoughts. It seems that this year in particular, given the circumstances and how isolated we're all feeling, there is perhaps a greater sense of community coming through this, which is really lovely to hear. I have one more question before we finish this segment of the press conference, and I may direct this again to Angel, and it's in regards to AI. So artificial intelligence is one of the fastest growing areas of technology, and it's obviously been applied to the design industry for some time now. The question is from Indonesia, and they would like to know if they're allowed to use AI in their design.
Yeah, anything. So this time actually is a great question. If you notice in our category, we have a 17 category. This is the first time actually we added innovations in the category award. This is the first time. So we definitely recognize this world is fast changing with, you know, all the new technology from the smart home, from AI, from ABC, and everything. So I think definitely welcome. We are actually looking forward for any of the new ideas which incorporate into the, you know, this design world. That would be a fantastic approach.
Thank you so much, Angel. That's great. And it's good to hear that the awards are ever expanding and incorporating new areas of the industry. I think that is perhaps all that we have time for this segment of the press conference. I want to thank everybody for the questions that came through. They were great. And I would like to say that the three judges that are joining us today will be staying on a little bit longer and joining me for a panel discussion in regards to design trends in Asia. So please stay for the next part of the press conference. Thank you all for staying with us, judges and media and audience. We're going to be talking a little bit about design trends. We may have touched a little bit of this in some of the questions from the media earlier, but I'm going to put this question to each of the three of you, and that is in regards to perhaps what short-term and long-term design trends you foresee happening specifically in the Asia-Pacific region. Perhaps Brian, maybe I might pass to you first time.
Thanks, Susie. So I think immediately sort of what we're seeing from the impact of the pandemic is maybe a rethink on space and utilization of space. We see a lot of sort of shrinking offices, we see flexible work arrangements, we see a lot of people working from home. I would say in a location where Andre and I are, in Hong Kong in particular, where space is really a luxury. It's not about just getting more space, it's making that space do more. So I think in the short term, it's just really rethinking about that. And things that sort of lead into, I would say, things like adaptive reuse, recycling, upcycling in terms of existing spaces. Again, as you sort of look around Hong Kong, there are a lot of sort of space available, but in terms of the ability to be a bit more sort of sensitive to that and more sustainable in terms of the approach.
Thank you, Brian. Andre, can I ask you to add some thoughts to that, please?
I think in the notion of hospitality, it's the feeling that you want people to get when they experience a space. And it's an interesting year because a lot of the properties that I've designed have, typically people travel to a hotel and use it. But now they're mostly used for staycations. So it's when you're in a city and you want to escape from the city, and the hotel kind of does that purpose. So in terms of understanding the possibility of what a hotel room serves, or even a restaurant or any destination within a hotel, what it serves, what it's catering to, and the possibilities that there are, I think that's a very interesting topic that I've been questioning myself hugely this year.
Yeah, I must say I miss the Hong Kong hotels for staycations. Chris, would you like to add to that, please?
Yeah, I think I did touch on my thoughts earlier on in this regard, and I think if I come from the residential space, to give a counterpoint to Andre, then I think with a lot of our clients like ourselves, we are reevaluating what happens at home, and therefore what home means to us. Trying to accommodate the now versus be flexible for futures unknown. So we're seeing, but what we are seeing with our residential clients is that they are sort of doubling down on their ambitions for their residences, and often with working with international clients as well who have multiple assets or residences around the world. How can things be joined together, and how can they provide a similar experience and functionality in different parts of the world as well. But as I say, that focus on the residence as a place of safety, which it is for everybody, obviously, but that has many meanings, and an adaptive environment that can say deal with the now, but also deal with more different functions as well. And without doubt, I think it's movement that was in place already, but it's expedited movement towards well-being within the residential environment and sustainability as well.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously we've been talking about trends, short-term and long-term, and kind of skirting around, I guess, the elephant in the room, which is COVID, which, I'm assuming is really what is sort of causing a lot of these changes. And I guess this next question I'm going to direct more specifically to Brian and Andre in regards to hospitality design trends, because Brian, as you said earlier, that your industry has been hit quite hard due to COVID. And, I would like to hear a bit more about, how much of these sort of trends do you think is specifically COVID related, and what other trends might be kind of bubbling along in the background that might be amplified by COVID, but perhaps may be separate to that. I wonder, Brian, if you might.
Yeah, so if I think back, Susie, to the start of last year and COVID hit, and then it was very reactive, I guess, and what we were really trying to get on top of is really how to get sort of SOPs and a framework around what was immediately necessary in the interest of guests' safety and hygiene, and where cleanliness, for instance, is something that used to be more discreet. People wanted to see that, and people wanted to sort of see, where you have sanitizing stations, where you have people out cleaning and coming out in terms of what you are doing in terms of looking after their safety, whether it's things like Andre says in terms of screens in food and beverage areas and separations of tables and things like that. So I think some of these things in terms of things we do today and maybe in the future are temporary, but it's obviously having that framework in place that when the situation arises that you can put these things in place. But certain other things that we were doing previously, like having specific standards in terms of air purification and things like that, we've had to sort of communicate those more clearly to the customers and guests. But these were things we were all doing sort of pre-COVID, but I think the communication of that was quite important to the guests for them to understand the measures that we were taking to ensure their safety in the hotels.
That's quite interesting and very good to know, as we're all about to hopefully start travelling at some stage very soon. Andre, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and perhaps, as Brian mentioned, maybe some of these measures won't be happening long term in the future. They may be somewhat temporary, but I wonder whether you're seeing changes that aren't related to COVID. And if perhaps there are changes that are COVID related that have changed the way that you're working and you're designing.
Well, I guess being directly or indirectly related to COVID, but the perception of hygiene and the sense of well-being, I think that's something that has become much more critical and important. I remember last week I was doing a presentation and there was a suite with a huge terrace, and we spent quite a bit of time debating how to make all the surfaces become, something that when guests go in and use it, they feel that, the canvas used on the outdoor seats are clean. And you feel that when you're in your elements, as in when you're in your swimwear, you would be comfortable just to sit on it. With most of your body being exposed. And I think topics like that I can go on forever, but I think that's the kind of mindset that pre or post-COVID, I think it will still be important, and perhaps COVID has further accelerated our awareness and sensitivity to this topic. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. My next question is more to do with technology. I mean, I'm sitting in Melbourne and we have Brian and Andre in Hong Kong, and Chris is in Singapore, and Angel has joined us from Shanghai. If it weren't for Zoom and other platforms, we wouldn't be able to do this. And I think that's certainly been one of the positives to come out of this, is that we can feel connected even when not physically together. I would like perhaps for each of you to talk a little bit about how you think technology may be further integrated, how the use of technology may change, and how it may impact the projects that you're working on in the future. And I would like to hear that from your perspective, Chris, with residences that you're designing, but also Andre and Brian from maybe more of a hospitality perspective. So maybe Chris, if you wanted to comment on that for us.
I'll try, and it is an interesting point in time, isn't it? Because technology is enveloping us, I would say, in one way, and we're at that point where it's more than supporting our lives already now. It's in some ways every day it's fashioning our lives, and our devices are our portals to everything. What's happened in the last year is quite extraordinary in that respect, really. And this is the norm now, isn't it? This is, and it was an alien thing a year ago. And I think so that it's unknown as to where it will all go. But I think for me, if technology is supporting lives, and if we talk about the residential environment, then that can only be a good thing, can't it? But I would hope we never get to the point where it becomes our life. I always talk about our work within the residential sphere as providing the background to people's lives. We never curate somebody's lives. We just support it. And I think that's how I also see technology, is obviously advancing at such a rate. And if it can support, great. If it becomes your life, then that's less of an attraction.
let's hope it doesn't come to that. Andre, you've always been very clever, I think, at sort of very discreetly integrating technology into your projects. And I wonder whether you're seeing more of that happening, whether there's a demand on the hospitality side of things. Do you have any comments on that?
I think, there's always been a desire to innovate and to evolve with time, and I think technology and multifunctionality are kind of integrated in some ways, and especially because I've got my product line, my living line, and lately we're working on some furniture where we expect people to spend more time sitting on it, and having, for example, a wireless charger being of closer proximity, or even integrated into that piece of furniture becomes something that we're kind of addressing to at the same time. So I'd say, integration of technology, definitely something that we're looking at. Yeah.
Mm. And Brian, from your perspective, obviously technology is not new to the world of hotels, but perhaps you could talk a little bit about how you might see that changing in the future.
Yeah, Susie, I think it's always going to be there. We're immersed in it like we're on the call right now. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to sleep, technology is all around us. So for me, it's about the balance in terms of hotels are meant to be high touch at the end of the day. And it's about giving the customer a choice in terms of how they want to interact with that technology, whether it's something as simple as mobile key that we use in our hotels, where you can just bypass reception, go straight to the room. But some people are not totally comfortable with that. It's, you've seen a lot of things out there, from robots delivering room service and all of that. So I think it's really embracing it and using it. We use it, I guess, a lot more behind the scenes in terms of rather than guest facing, because that human touch and the human to human interaction is still very important. It is the hospitality industry and hotels, but in terms of where we can benefit from it, in terms of things specific like data and analytics, we use a lot now in terms of learning about guest habits, guest feedback, customization to guest preferences and things like that. So that's where technology and AI comes really into play, that really helps us do our jobs better and maybe simplify certain processes within the hotel.
Interesting. And so my last question for each of you is in relation to wellbeing. I think it's probably fair to say that throughout all of this, we've probably become much more conscious of our health and our wellbeing, whether it's to do with technology or physical wellbeing. And I would like to hear each of your thoughts about this sort of elevated sense of consciousness and how that might influence our spaces and how we spend time in them in the future. I know that was something that you touched on briefly before, Chris, so I might ask you to start, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think if I think about my own personal experience through this, and I think there's a quest for the simple in this time, and that can be just a comfortable chair, to Andre's point, a view, a nice shaft of light into a space, and I think some greenery, right? Some sense of outside connectivity, and I think they for me are kind of prerequisites in design anyway. Those essential elements of just that's well-being for me. It's a nicely proportioned space, nicely lit room with shadows on a wall, a beautiful view towards a lovely tree or something. And I think that's how I think in the now of a returning, and that's, I guess, my counterpoint to technology, embracing everything technological and speed of change, but with also never losing track of the essential, and the essential will always be. And they're the points of interest for me.
And Brian, I'm going to pass to you, because again, this sense of well-being and looking after people is certainly core to the hospitality business, and having some kind of space to recuperate is not new within the hotel world, but I wonder if you see that changing the way that you design hotels or how you build them, and perhaps even where you build them.
Well, hopefully so, Susie, and I think since it's top of mind right now in terms of the people's consciousness and well-being, I hope that does sort of have an effect in terms of how we plan and design hotels in the future, and like elements like Chris was referring to in terms of biophilic design and bringing a lot more of that outside in, looking at providing a lot more greenery, open spaces within hotel developments where possible. I think are all positive things that can contribute not only to the hotel and the guests, but the surroundings, neighbourhood and the environment as well.
Mm. And Andre, do you have any thoughts to share, whether that's something that is top of your mind while you're designing spaces and, of course, your product line as well?
Well, I guess actually on a personal basis, on a personal level, I think the spirit of well-being has become more and more important. And I was even questioning whether I'm less resilient to changes because life is very stable these days. There's no like rushing to the airport, flying from one place to another, even packing and unpacking. I've done a lot less of it, even none in the past 2 years. And you're just kind of going through the day and it's very planned most of the time. And I think it's a balance. It's a balance of being in touch with your inner self and having that feeling that everything is in control, and yet being able to equally be adaptable with that adaptable mindset. It's a little bit far off from the design topic, but I think it's important because it's the way people are these days. So when you go into an environment, it's even more important that they feel that you have taken all their needs into consideration. And when they feel that they have been taken care of, when their needs are being addressed, that becomes the fundamentals of a good design. And I guess in terms of boldness, perhaps it's the boldness in terms of understanding what people are thriving for, and not just boldness in terms of creating something that's good for social media.
That's a great answer, thank you. I'm now going to throw to the media that are here with us today for their questions. We don't have time for very many, but I did want to say that if your questions aren't answered through these sessions, there will be a follow-up, so your questions will be answered, and I appreciate your patience. So I have one more question, and it's directed at Chris. It's come from Indonesia, and the question is, because you're based in Singapore and familiar, I'm assuming, with Southeast Asia, do you think that the submissions to this year's awards will be very Asia? I'm not sure what that means. Or perhaps will there be other trends that we can expect to see? What are your thoughts on that?
It's difficult to predict, because I guess if projects are to be finished by August of this year, it means they've been designed and developed over the last 2 or 3 years, probably. So the origins of them predate COVID and the now. So I think I understand that the context of that question about people like myself, and as Andre said, traveling less through this period, so that the projects have been much more about being designed in the place that they've been delivered or by the people. I assume that's the point of the question. But as I say, the designs happened sometime before, so it's hard to answer in some respects. But I think it is going to be interesting to see what has been completed in this year. And I think to that point about international designers, Andre and myself on this session, for example, where we have had to work in different ways, where we can't rely on going to see projects and our own projects and others as we used to do previously, and having to work remotely. And it will be interesting to see what the product of this last period actually looks like. Unknown as yet.
I agree. Well, sadly, that's all we have time for this session. As I said, anyone who sent through questions that haven't been answered, there will be a follow-up. So thank you for your patience. I'd like to thank each of the judges, Brian, Andre and Chris, for agreeing to be on the jury this year, but also for your time this afternoon. It's been great to see you, even if it is just over Zoom. And so thank you very much. It's now time for me to hand over to Kesini, who's in Shanghai, who's going to wrap up today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. And then I'd like to thank you for all the judges to join us today, and especially all the media partners and associates and all of you who join us today. So we're looking forward for the submission, and then hopefully we see each other again at our gala dinner in February next year. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.